It's the ultimate travel guide from the people who know it best. Weekends with Yankee.
The date is 1717. Imagine you're given the choice between being a slave working a horrible life of pain and toil, treated like cattle with no rights, or being on a ship where you have a vote, you earn money as a pirate. Which choice would you make?
Come on aboard.
I feel like I'm getting thrown into the stockade. I've known Barry Clifford for over 2 decades. He's considered one of the foremost underwater archaeologists in the world.
Do you remember Brandon?
Hey, Brandon, yeah, good to see you again.
Nice to see you.
He's also a historian, which kind of makes him a detective or a sleuth.
The story of the Whydah was a legend that I grew up with as a boy. Every Cape Cod family had heard this legend because the Whydah's the richest pirate ship that ever sailed. My uncles would all sit around and tell the story of Sam Bellamy and his girlfriend, Maria Hallett, who had been condemned as a witch.
In April of 1716, this young English sailor came to Cape Cod to look for a crew. He met Maria Hallett, who was 15 years old, and they fell in love. But Bellamy's ship, the Sultana, called him back to sea, and he promised Maria he'd return to her soon with a dowry of Spanish treasure from Florida. Now, the Whydah
Was a slave ship named after a slave port in West Africa. On its maiden voyage in 1716, it had just dropped a shipment of slaves off in Jamaica. And on its way back to England through the Windward Passage, it was captured by Sam Bellamy and his crew.
From the Sultana, they fired a single shot across the Whydah's bow and raised the skull and crossbones to signal to Captain Prince that he'd better surrender or die. From what I understand, this was the first time in history a skull and crossbones was raised for that purpose.
When Bellamy captured Prince, did he kill him?
Bellamy is not known to have harmed any of the crews that he captured. The legend is he gave Captain Prince his ship, the Sultana, in exchange for the Whydah.
And after giving Captain Prince a lecture about the evils of slavery, he sailed north to rendezvous with Maria Hallett. Now, while all this was happening, Maria gave birth to Sam Bellamy's child. Desperate to keep it from the authorities, Maria hid the baby in a barn where it choked to death on a piece of straw. Eastham officials subsequently drove her out of town, where she built this little hut overlooking the coast, known as the Graveyard of the Atlantic. And legend has it her sorrow was so great, she would bewitch nearby ships to steer into storms and wait for Sam Bellamy to return. And as Bellamy sailed up the coast of Cape Cod, he was met with one of the fiercest nor'easters in history. April 26, 1717, the Whydah was cast ashore off of Wellfleet. There were 102 bodies recovered from the shipwreck. Bellamy's was not one of them.
And that's the story I heard as a boy growing up. So you can imagine a kid, with any sense of adventure, hearing about pirate treasure and witches.
Barry, how long do we know each other? A long time.
20-something years?
20-something years. And every time we talk on the phone, which is fairly often, we talk about discovery or different research areas of the world, and this genuine excitement, same as a kid telling their parent or their grandparent what they found.
Since Brandon's been 5 years old, he's been coming out on the ship to explore with me.
What are we looking at?
These are some of the artifacts that we've been finding this summer. These are various Spanish silver reals, some buckles. We're quite excited about these because we've never seen them before. These are manillas. They're quite symbolic of the slave trade. And the Europeans began to manufacture manila and bring them down to the coast of West Africa to trade with, in the Whydah case specifically, the Akan and the Ashanti people, to trade for primarily gold, ivory, and slaves.
So let me get this straight. These bracelets were used to buy Africans.
Correct. On the Whydah, to steal and sell people. That was legal. That was big business.
Wow. As repugnant as it sounds, how many of these would you trade for a human life?
At one point, like maybe 10.
So we have 2, 4, 6, 8. This would buy you a person.
Yep, essentially.
Wow. A pirate captures a slave ship.
That's the irony of the Whydah. Bellamy's crew, these bad pirates, a third were emancipated slaves. But the Royal African Company had a license from the government to sell slaves. So who were the real bad guys?
Right.
What were your choices when you were a slave?
Right.
What were your choices when you were a brutalized merchant sailor who was whacked on the head in a bar?
Right.
And you woke up on a merchant ship, and you're going to be on that ship until you can escape. But yet, on board this former slave ship, you could vote. Africans were elected officers. People were being judged by what they contributed to the Brotherhood, not by the color of their skin.
So, I mean, do you feel this was a test in democracy that even America hadn't seen? I guess America wasn't even America at that point.
50 some odd years before George Washington arrived on the scene.
That's an incredible story.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
I don't know, with a hook.
Oh, with the hook, I know you do the pirate hook, hook thing.